10 of the worst torture methods ever devised. Alright, imagine you're a sailor back in the day and you mess up big time. Maybe you started a mutiny or stole some rum. The captain doesn't just throw you overboard. That's way too easy for a guy who wants to send a message. Instead, they tie a heavy rope around your torso and throw you and then drag you literally under the entire ship. Now here's the part that's truly horrifying. Your first thought is probably the drowning, but that's actually the least of your worries. The real nightmare lives on the bottom of the boat. Old wooden ships were covered in barnacles. These tiny calcium-crusted organisms that are basically razor-sharp mountain ranges glued to the hull. As the crew pulls the rope from the other side, they are dragging your bare back and chest across thousands of these jagged edges. It's like being pulled across a giant cheese grater made of stone and rusted wood. If the impact with the keel doesn't knock you unconscious or break your spine, the barnacles will systematically flay the skin off your body. By the time they haul you back up to the deck, you aren't just soaking wet, you're looking like a pile of raw hamburger meat. And the salt water hitting those open wounds? That's a level of sting you can't even imagine. If you survived the first pass, they'd often just throw you back in and do it again until you stopped moving. It was the ultimate maritime fuck around and find out. You've probably seen this in old cartoons where it looks like a joke, but this is pure psychological warfare at its peak. They strap you into a chair or onto a table so tightly that you can't even twitch your neck. Then, they set up a small vessel above you and drip. A single, tiny drop of cold water hits the exact center of your forehead, then another. At first, you're probably thinking, is this it?
We're going to do something.
But give it a few hours. Your brain is designed to find patterns and react to threats, and when it can't escape this one tiny rhythmic stimulus, it starts to short circuit. Every drop starts feeling heavier and heavier. Eventually, that tiny splash starts feeling like a literal sledgehammer hitting your skull. Your own skin becomes a drum, and the water is the stick. It doesn't leave a single bruise on the outside, but on the inside, your sanity is basically being eroded like a canyon until there's nothing left. Imagine being locked in a room where absolutely everything is pure, blinding white. The walls are white, the floor is white, the ceiling is white, and even the lights are designed to be so bright that there are no shadows. Your clothes are white, and even the food they give you is just plain white rice on a white plastic tray. The room is 100% soundproof, no wind, no birds, no voices. And the worst part? Your brain is a machine built to process information, and when you give it zero sensory input, it starts to panic. Within a day, you lose all sense of time. Was that an hour or a week? You have no way to tell. You start talking to yourself just to hear a vibration, but eventually, even your own voice starts to sound alien. People held in these rooms start to have massive waking dreams because the brain is so desperate for a stimulus that it starts projecting vivid hallucinations onto the white walls just to survive. It's like being buried alive in a cloud. There's no physical pain, no blood, and no screaming, but when you finally walk out of that room, you aren't the same person. Your identity is basically deleted, and your mind becomes a blank slate that the interrogators can rewrite however they want. The rack is the absolute king of the make him talk era, and for a good reason, it is terrifyingly efficient. It's basically just a big rectangular wooden frame with rollers at both ends. They lay you down on it and tie your wrists to the top roller and your ankles to the bottom one. Then, the interrogator starts turning the handles. At first, it just feels like a really deep stretch, but then you hear the first sound, pop. That's your shoulder slipping out of its socket. Then snap, there go your hips. Now imagine this. The pain of your joints being physically forced apart is something your brain isn't even equipped to handle. They keep turning and turning, and soon your ligaments and tendons start snapping like old, overstretched rubber bands. By the time they're done, you might actually be several inches taller than when you started, but your body is completely ruined. You'll never walk again, you'll never hold a spoon again, and your limbs will just hang there like useless pieces of string. It was designed to keep you conscious for the longest possible time, so you'd give up every secret you ever had just to make the clicking stop for 5 seconds. Bro, you do not want to spend even a second on this thing. The Spanish donkey, or the cabalete, is basically a big wooden wedge shaped like an upside-down V's with a razor-sharp edge pointing toward the sky. They make you straddle the top of it like you're riding a horse, but instead of a comfortable saddle, you're sitting directly on that sharp wooden blade. Now, this is where the nightmare really begins. They don't just leave you there. To make sure the wedge does its job, they tie heavy iron weights or large stones to your ankles. So now, gravity and those weights are slowly pulling your entire body weight down onto that sharp edge. If you struggle or try to shift your weight, the blade just sinks in deeper and faster. It's the ultimate no-win situation where your own body weight becomes the executioner. This is peak ancient Greek cruelty, invented by a guy named Paracelsus who thought he was being a genius. He built a massive statue of a bull out of pure bronze, hollow on the inside, with a small hatch in the side. They'd shove the victim inside, lock the door, and then light a massive bonfire directly underneath the bull's belly. As the metal heated up, it became a literal human oven. But the part that's truly horrifying is the acoustic engineering. Paracelsus installed a series of complex bronze pipes and whistles in the bull's head and nose. When the victim inside started screaming in absolute agony as they were being roasted alive, the sound would travel through those pipes and be transformed. It sounded like a deep, melodious, and very angry bull bellowing. The tyrant who commissioned it, Phalaris, was so disgusted by the invention that he actually tested it on the inventor first. Imagine being so good at making torture devices that even the bad guy thinks you've gone too far. The breaking wheel is just pure, unfiltered brutality from the Middle Ages. First, they lay you out on the ground and the executioner takes a massive, heavy, iron-rimmed wheel or a blunt iron bar. He starts at your ankles and systematically smashes every major bone in your body. Shins, thighs, forearms, upper arms. Skipping the head and chest so you stay alive. Once you're just a bag of shattered limbs, they take your flexible arms and legs and weave them through the spokes of a large wagon wheel. They basically turn you into a human pretzel. Then, they hoist the wheel up onto a tall wooden pole and leave you there. You're suspended high in the air, completely unable to move. Crows are smart, and they know a literal sitting duck when they see one. They'll start pecking while you're still breathing. It was the ultimate public spectacle, designed to show everyone in the city exactly what happens when you break the king's law. The Vikings are famous for being warriors, but their ritual for the blood eagle is easily one of the most metal and terrifying things in history. It starts with you being pinned face down. They take a sharp knife and cut a long slit down your back, right along the spine. Then, using an axe or a heavy blade, they systematically hack your ribs away from your backbone one by one. But they aren't done yet. To finish the eagle look, they reach inside your chest cavity and pull your lungs out through the holes in your back. The goal was to die without screaming to prove you were a true warrior. But let's be real. With your lungs hanging out of your back, screaming is probably the only thing on your mind. Just kidding. Anyway, let's get to the real final entry. If you're looking for the absolute worst of the worst, Scaphism, also called the boats, is the winner. This ancient Persian method is so gross it'll make your skin crawl. They take you out to a stagnant pond and trap you between two boats or logs, with only your head, hands, and feet sticking out. Then, they force feed you a massive amount of milk and honey. The mixture causes severe, explosive diarrhea, which stays trapped inside the boat with you. The sweet smell and the waste attract every fly, wasp, and beetle for miles. They start to breed in your waist and crawl into your body, literally eating you from the inside out while you're still alive. You're basically a living buffet for parasites. They'd come back every day to force feed you more so you wouldn't die of dehydration, just to keep the nightmare going. One guy reportedly survived 17 days in that boat before he finally passed away. It's the most disgusting, lonely, and agonizingly slow way to die ever recorded in human history. And that's the list. I'm curious, which one of these would you say is the absolute worst? Or did I miss one that you think is even more terrifying? Drop your own top 3 in the comments. I want to see if you guys are as disturbed as I am.